Welcome, everyone. I have the top of the hour. We have a number of folks still joining, but I'm going to get started, and I'll do an introduction while the rest of the folks are coming in. Welcome, everyone. Hi, my name is Kate Majewski. I'm from the National Library of Medicine, and I'm here with my colleagues, Sophia Bertuzinos and Rolando Garcia-Millan from the Cushing Whitney Medical Library at Yale, sorry, Sophia, and Molly Knapp from the network of the NLM. We welcome you to this series of talks dedicated to exploring the evolution of bioinformatics services in libraries. The idea to organize this series came from our esteemed colleagues at Yale, Sophia and Rolando, in celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Bioinformatics Support Hub at the Medical Library at Yale. And I encourage you to view the recordings of the earlier sessions, particularly session 1, to learn a bit about that history and context. And we are so thankful that Sophia and Rolando brought this idea to us because we have learned a great deal from our colleagues in this series so far, and we anticipate more great information in the next 3 sessions. Today is session 5, launching bioinformatics programs with limited resources. And to help us with that, we have Amy Yarnell. Amy is the head of Data and Bioinformation Services in the Health Sciences and Human Services Library at the University of Maryland, Baltimore. Also, we welcome Neetu Rajpal, the Bioinformatics Librarian at the University of Pennsylvania. And we're also very happy that Elliott Smith is here. Elliott is the Biology and Bioinformatics Librarian at the University of California, Berkeley. Note that we will be holding questions until the end of all of our presentations today, but you are welcome to put them in chat at any time and we'll address them in the Q&A period at the end. So we're going in this order that you see on the slide, and we will hear first from Amy. So Amy, take it away.
Thanks so much, Kate. Let me share my screen here. Okay, and can you see that? The slides? All good? Great, thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me here. As mentioned, I am from the University of Maryland, Baltimore, head of our Data and Bioinformation Services. Just a little overview of what I'll be talking about. Our Tell you a little more about our university and our library and some of the bioinformatics support we offer here at UMB. And I'll explain kind of, we've had some different configurations for our bioinformatics support over the last decade. And so I'll talk a little bit about how we've adapted to having some different amounts of resources and staffing levels, and hopefully also give you some tips that you can take away with you. Oh, second here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so for a little bit of background, the University of Maryland, Baltimore, we do sometimes get confused, I know, with our cousins in Baltimore County and at College Park, but we are located right in downtown Baltimore, a few blocks from Camden Yards, and we are the state's public university for health law and human services. We are primarily a graduate and professional university with just a small undergrad population, and we have schools of dentistry, medicine, nursing, pharmacy, social work, law, and graduate studies. We're also home to the University of Maryland Medical Center, the Baltimore VA Hospital, and a biomedical research park. So we do have quite a bit of research activity going on. And while we don't have too much in the way of specific bioinformatics degree programs, we do see a lot of need for bioinformatics support from our School of Medicine, especially its many trainees and research staff. And so that's where we do most of our work, but certainly there are bioinformatics researchers all across the campus. And a little bit about our health sciences and human services library. We are fairly large for a health sciences library. We have a little over 50 staff, about half of whom are faculty librarians. And we are the primary library for all of our schools except for law, which has their own library, but we're open to everyone on campus. We've also been home to the NNLM Region 1, which used to be the Southeastern Atlantic region, for the past 40 years, and we've recently become home of the National Web Services Office as well. And as our organization chart shows, the Department of Data and Bioinformation Services is within our Research and Information Services Department, and this is kind of the public-facing division of the library. It also includes the information desk staff and our research and education librarians who serve as liaisons to the different schools. So in the Data and Bioinformation Services Department, we do also work really closely within our division and with all the divisions of the library on different aspects of data and technology. The Data and Information Services Department is fairly new. Currently, it consists of just me, but we are planning to add a data services librarian and a bioinformatics specialist very soon. So generally speaking, our goal is to support our campus community at all stages of the research data lifecycle and at a variety of levels from general guidance to more customized project support. We first began kind of looking into offering bioinformatics support a little over a decade ago, 2012 to 2013. And at this point, Alexa Mayo, who's my supervisor and the head of research and information services, together with Andrea Schipper, who was our School of Medicine library at the time, received an NNLM grant to investigate the information needs of faculty, staff, and students involved in bioinformatics research. The project included a campus survey and focus groups, as well as visits to other university libraries with bioinformatics programs. And as a result of this project, the library decided to create a full-time bioinformationist position. Some other recommendations that came out were to really use the library's ability to serve as a hub and make connections to other relevant units on campus, and to look into licensing some requested software and resources. They had also been providing support already by arranging for distance learning with the NIH library, where the NIH library provided virtual trainings, and we arranged for UMB folks to participate from one of our computer classrooms. And this was a hugely popular program. So in 2016, our full-time bioinformationist came on board, and that was Jean-Paul Cornier, who came to us with a master's in molecular biology, and he had been working at the time at UMB in a lab position. So he's not a librarian, but brought some much needed experience to us. And he was really able to do quite a lot fairly quickly because he focused on building those connections with other units on campus, like our Institute for Genome Sciences and our Institute for Clinical and Translational Research. And they helped by offering guidance, and it also made us able to kind of cross-pollinate events and reach a wider audience more quickly. JP also made great use of existing resources and collaborated with others. So for example, he coordinated for NCBI instructors to come to campus for a 2-day bioinformatics workshop. And we also had an emerging technologies librarian at the time with computer programming and web development experience. And so they worked together on command line, GitHub, and R workshops. And so from that strong foundation, JP was able to start innovating new services, offering more customized support. He offered consultations and design workshops on tools like BLAST and Fiji, and he joined research teams to do RNA-seq analysis and data visualization. He also developed a good workflow for helping with submitting data to genomic repositories, which can be a pretty complicated process. And one of his favorite projects that he worked on was the Bioinformatics and Data Workstation. And this was launched in 2017. And it was a project between JP and our library computing and technology department. And so we received funding from a campus grant to um, to try to help fill a gap between those who needed more computing power than you would typically have on a personal computer, but whose needs weren't really big enough to make it make sense to try to use the high performance computing cluster, which was at IGS. And so we had a decent workstation, 8-core Intel Xeon processor, 128 gigabytes of RAM, and 8 terabyte solid state hard drive. And the workstation had both Unix and Windows virtual machines set up with a variety of open source and licensed software. And the main limitation of this workstation is that it was limited to on-site usage. So we did kind of have to modify some things, and we maybe saw some decline in usage when the library was closed for COVID and people were starting to work from home more. Eventually, JP also became the main point of contact for general data-related services as well. He collaborated with some other library divisions on some of our resources like the UMB data catalog and on teaching some research data management workshops. He also worked on kind of some more general data visualization work where it was helpful to have someone with some programming experience. There was enough demand in this area, though, that the HSHSL decided to hire a full-time data services librarian. And that's where I come on the scene. And so now we're kind of able to do some work together as a data and bioinformationist unit. So I started as the data services librarian again in 2019, and it was sort of my first role outside of library school. And so I had a lot of on-the-job training to do. And from the start, I focused on training in data management and in R programming. And JP and I also, during this time, came up with a branding plan for our combined services, which we call the Center for Data and Bioinformation Services. And our goal was to encompass the work that both of us did, but also some of the data computing and visualization work that was being done in other areas of the library. And we really wanted to highlight our role as a campus hub, as a centralized resource that can help connect people on a somewhat siloed campus. One exciting service that came out of this time is our data visualization service. And this also includes our library's instructional technologist, who's really a graphic designer by training. And thanks to some of the work JP had done early on to build our relationship with the ICTR, we were able to make the service eligible for internal funding from then. And it's for people who wanted to create kind of publication-ready graphics or visualizations for grants and things like that. And so while we each had our areas of concentration, we worked as a team pretty regularly, and we particularly collaborated in the area of computer programming and reproducible research. So we both became carpentry certified instructors in 2021, and we offered both library and data carpentries workshops, mostly in collaboration with the NNLM Region 1. We also adapted their curriculum to, and including the genomics curriculum for our own workshops. We found that the most excitement for this area was from our students, trainees, and early career faculty. So we developed some tailored workshops for some of these groups, like the Postdoc Association. And we also offered more general workshops and advertised to these groups and their listservs. And so one of our goals was really to make sure that we were always creating materials that were openly available, in part to give back for all the open material that we've used, and also to make it easier for our participants to go back and review things. We tried to set things up so that our lessons could be kind of self-paced, self-taught. So, maybe we could only offer a couple big programming workshops a year, but we could direct people to these resources anytime. So that kind of helped us to maximize the use of those resources. We also were able to take advantage of a number of really great and often free opportunities for professional development. So there's just a few in this on this slide, but there are probably more that we both completed. Things through what at the time was the National Center for Genome Analysis Support at IU. We did a Microsoft Azure training through NIH Strides, data management courses, which included kind of some data science aspects through NNLM, and a Cyverse Open Science course. But unfortunately for the HSHSL, JP did move on to another position in 2022. And so now the question became, how will we continue to support bioinformatics while we were temporarily without a bioinformationist? And realizing that it could be quite a while before we could fill the position because it does require such a unique mix of skills and a desire for library work for someone with those skills. So the R programming experience that I had undergone in the previous couple of years really helped to prepare me to step in and cover some of this work. After JP left, I also signed up just as quick as I could for the next NNLM Bioinformatics and Biology Essentials for Librarians course. And this was extremely helpful in giving me more of the subject matter context and the understanding of different resources that I needed to be able to communicate with bioinformatics researchers. We did also have a second data services librarian who joined us for a year. Eventually, she did move on to another position at someplace called Yale, I think maybe you've heard of. Um, but she came in with some Python experience, and which I don't have too much of. So it's helpful to have that kind of supplemental experience to be able to continue to offer workshops. And it also having another person opened up some time for me to offer project support. And I did some data visualization for a microbiome analysis publication, for example. I've also continued to try to build our relationships across campus and figure out, where we can make referrals, where we can find kind of low-cost resources for people. And so for instance, recommending people to tools like Galaxy because we're currently replacing our bioinformatics workstation. So trying to find some comparable resources for people. And luckily for me, also JP is still working on campus and will still take my phone calls if I need some backup support. So where we are right now is that we've kind of recently really formalized this data and bioinformation services as a department, where before it was kind of a couple of individual roles in this larger division. And so I am now the head of that department, but currently also the only person. But hopefully we will have data services and bioinformatics specialists starting soon. Um, we're also working to replace our data science and bioinformatics workstation. We've purchased a new server, and we're hoping to kind of have some remote access and some improved capabilities for that, and that's currently in its testing phase. And then another nice relationship that we've built, and a sign of the library being more central in campus informatics discussions, is that the HSHSL Dean, Emily Hurst, and I are both able to attend Campus Informatics Committee meetings, which has a relationship also with Johns Hopkins through our CTSA. And so just a couple of takeaways, which I think really allowed us to grow our program and sustain it through our staffing shortages. So first, I would say don't feel the need to reinvent the wheel. One of the great things about the bioinformatics community is how many wonderful open free resources there are, especially through NNLM, NLM, and NIH. And the same goes for building relationships. Find out who's already offering services that you can maybe refer people to or get some resources from, and that can help you fill in some gaps. It's also really great to make training materials easy to reuse and modify, so you can kind of provide support for the most people and minimize your effort on that. And finally, I think it's great to cross-train staff where possible. It was really helpful that I had built some experience with R in the command line, and that made it easier for me to step in until we could find a full-time bioinformatics specialist. And that is everything for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy. That's so interesting to hear how you're merging other data services with bioinformatics support. I'm I'm super curious about challenges where biological and clinical data meet, and hopefully we can talk about that more next week. But thank you so much. And next, we will hear from Neetu Rajpal. Neetu is the Bioinformatics Librarian at the University of Pennsylvania. Neetu has a PhD in biology and several years of experience as a lab scientist. We are delighted to have you here today, Neetu. The floor is yours.
Neetu, you are muted.
Sorry. Thanks, Kate, for that introduction, and I thank the National Library of Medicine for this opportunity. As Kate mentioned, I am the bioinformatics librarian with a PhD in biology and worked in lab science, was a lab scientist all through my career till this opportunity opened up. And I'm glad that I could get this opportunity and explore the other side of academia. Um, and I am just a minute, sorry. So as we all know, University of Pennsylvania is an R1 university with very high research activities, over $1 billion in research funding. And University of Pennsylvania is made up of 12 schools, which include the School of Medicine, School of Nursing, School of Dental Medicine, Veterinary Medicine, School of Arts and Science, Engineering, and so on and so forth. I am based out of the Hallman Biotech Commons Library, where I'm part of a group of 12 librarians that mainly serve patrons from the School of Arts and Sciences, School of Nursing, and the Perelman School of Medicine, and to a certain extent, even CHOP, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. The other schools have their own librarians, like the School of Dental Medicine and the Veterinary School have their own librarians, but they do also make up part of the health sciences libraries. Now going on to bioinformatics, as we know, bioinformatics or computational biology has exploded. The science of computational biology or bioinformatics has exploded in the last 20 years since the human genome was sequenced. And since then, there is so much data being generated from new technologies and new innovations that the need for a bioinformatician, a librarian who could help support people's researchers on campus arose. Manuel de la Cruz Gutierrez, the director of Hallman Biotech Commons, was a pioneer within the Penn libraries for data innovation, and he felt the need to bring in a bioinformatics librarian about 5 years back, and I joined the group in 2022. So I'm going to be talking about what I have experienced in the last 2.5 years, a little under 2.5 years, and my experience and what I think can be done going forward. So University of Pennsylvania offers degrees and courses in computational biology and bioinformatics. They have graduate studies, which includes PhD and Masters in genomics and computational biology and related research areas. These are developed programs, and the resources are very well defined by mentors. Mentors have access to tools that are available, and they can have access for them, pay for access through their grants, and there's limited need for a librarian per se to help out there. However, the undergraduate studies in biology has a concentration in computational biology, and there are certificate courses in bioinformatics and clinical informatics where the students need a little bit of assistance, although the professors who conduct those classes are the programs are developed, the mentors are well aware of the resources and all that, but the students do need some support when it comes to those courses, and especially certain resources, which sometimes they cannot reach out to their mentors or they feel comfortable coming to us. And then their research students, undergraduate students who are joining research projects and all that, that is where the need to fill the gap for bioinformatics at the bioinformatics level is need, and that's the place where I, as a bioinformatics librarian, am hoping to fill in the gap. So as a role, the role for a bioinformatics librarian at the University of Pennsylvania, it was seen that I will be mainly a liaison between the research cores on campus, wherein I can point to the direction of these cores, the students or researchers to these cores, where they help them design experiments, bioinformatics or genomics experiments, or even have tools that students can use, students or researchers or staff can use, faculty can use for their research. So there's a bioinformatics core, there's a biostatistics and bioinformatics core, and Center for Biomedical Informatics core. And I just, if any patron, student, faculty, staff come to me for questions, I can direct them to these places for more in-depth support. However, I'm also a liaison with the graduate students within the Biomedical Graduate Studies program, the postdoc program, and also the Biomedical Informatics program. And this is where the students, faculty or staff come to me for support with the tools that they may need, or even sometimes discuss the experiments, the next steps. Okay, this is the hypothesis. How can we go about? And I can guide them through that. So that is what I help them besides the other resources within the Hallman Biotech Commons Library. And towards that, I do workshops in biopsych genomic databases and the NCBI databases. I provide these workshops twice a year, and the NCBI database, in fact, I do provide database workshops as needed. So I do 2 workshops in the spring and the fall, but also if requested by certain class, I go and do lectures for them. I provide consultations. This is bioinformatics resources that are available, data visualizations or tools to use for analysis, or connect them to resources on campus. I have done classes, one-off lectures for the Nutrition 6100, which is a new course on campus for omics of nutrition sciences, where I have delivered a class on introduction of omics databases, where I discuss NCBI databases and other databases. And another class, which is a required class, Chem 6100 for first year graduate students in the chemistry department. Basically, they are biological chemistry students, and they have this class on chemical information, where I did a part of the class doing demonstration of the UCSC genome data browser. Besides that, I have also assisted literature search. Currently, I'm working with a faculty who has done some research on TB samples, human samples, clinical samples, and she has identified certain SNPs. However, she is asking me to help her with literature to identify relationships between these specific SNPs and other SNPs, and also what role these SNPs play in infection or immunogenicity. So this is the kind of literature support I'm providing, and with other genomic publications I have provided so far is visualization of data. So there is RNA-seq data, how best to present it for publications. And since I am within the Penn libraries and I'm a subject specialist in bioinformatics, my role is not just defined to bioinformatics. I also work with other librarians and support other responsibilities at the Penn libraries. I'm involved in research impact studies, so wherein I am involved in providing bibliometric analysis at different department levels, at different center levels, when they're getting their annual reports ready. And I also working with NCBI databases. I do consults as a biomedical subject librarian where I provide literature search support, systematic review. I'm part of the systematic review group, help with bibliometric publications. I'm currently working on several different where they're trying to understand trends in publications among women in certain areas of research, or also trying to understand women health and what kind of publications are coming out. I also consult for the NIH public access manuscript submission, MyNCBI or Science CV, if staff or faculty have any questions about their profiles on NCBI, MyNCBI. I am kind of the point of contact person, and I try to resolve their questions. I also collaborate with the RDDS, which is a research data and digital scholarship group within Penn libraries, and being a subject expert, if they have any NIH grant application which is going to do genomic research or has any genomic data, I guide them through the repository requirements and help with the DMSP plan. The next thing I just want to think through the last 2.5 years, what I can bring about to become an impactful bioinformatics librarian, basically connecting with new faculty in the genomic space. That is something that I have realized is useful because of my experience. When there are new faculty, and if I introduce them, they are more receptive of making use of our services, our assistance, whether it is about, helping them create a curriculum and where I can support them in building that curriculum, or resources that may be available, or if they potentially want to bring in any new resources that maybe we are not aware of. That is what I think is where I think I can be impactful, and also bringing about genomic literacy at the beginning of research career, especially amongst the freshman students during the summer between freshman and sophomore year, introducing them to genomics or what free resources are available before they get fully involved in their resources so that they are better prepared to go into labs to understand what genomics is. So this is what I feel is going to be at least my immediate impact as a bioinformatics. And once I have figured out that, then I want to explore other areas, learning lessons from other universities, how they have developed their bioinformatics programs. This is basically what I wanted to share. Any questions? I can take it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Neetu. Thank you for your description of the valuable services you offer and a picture of the wide range of your responsibilities And we appreciate your thoughtful guidance on being an impactful bioinformatics librarian. Our final presentation is from Elliott Smith. Again, Elliott is the biology and bioinformatics librarian at the University of California, Berkeley, and a 2015 graduate of our NLM bioinformatics course for librarians. We're excited to hear from you today, Elliott. You may have our virtual stage.
Thank you, Kate, and my thanks to Sophia and Rolando for inviting me to participate in this series and to Molly for her support. It's an honor to present in this session with Amy and Neetu. You might not think of UC Berkeley as a limited resource environment. However, state funding for Berkeley has been declining for 2 decades or more, while student enrollment, faculty, and programs have been increasing. In my areas, in just the past 2 years, Berkeley has created a separate Department of Neuroscience and a joint computational precision health program with UCSF. Meanwhile, I remain the sole bioinformatics librarian on my campus. In this presentation, I will discuss creating workshops drawn from NCBI training materials, using common tools such as LibGuides to provide on-demand support, and identifying instructional opportunities to build collaborative partnerships and increase impact across campus and beyond. I think you'll definitely see some themes in common with Amy's and Neetu's presentations. Today, I'm going to talk about my own path to bioinformatics librarianship, but as I go along, I'm going to try to draw out some more general recommendations that I hope may be helpful to other librarians who find themselves in limited resource situations. I present these recommendations as the suggestions of someone who is very much still learning and developing in this role. My path to bioinformatics librarianship, as this graphic suggests, was full of twists and turns. My undergraduate degree was in physical chemistry. Although I took physiology classes and did a research project on protein conformation, I do not have a biology degree. And in fact, I was not hired to be a bioinformatics librarian. There was no such position at Berkeley when I started in 2010. And as with Amy, this was my first professional position. My original job title was Emerging Technologies Librarian. As the title indicates, I did a lot of computer, software, and website management. I also did reference an instruction on using library resources in biology and medicine. However, less than 2 years after I started working at Berkeley, the head of the Koshland Bioscience Library retired, and I was asked to take on her responsibilities as selector and liaison for the Department of Molecular and Cell Biology. I've never had selection or liaison roles before, but I viewed the change as an opportunity for learning and professional growth. This leads to my first recommendation, which is to embrace your changing roles. Libraries are dynamic organizations. Library services are constantly changing in response to changes in information technology, student and faculty needs, institutional priorities and programs, and budget realities. That means that librarians are likely to see their roles change over time, and that's certainly been true in my case. One of the challenges in taking on new roles is acquiring the necessary training and skills. When I was asked to become the librarian for molecular and cell biology, I felt that to do so effectively, I needed to improve my understanding of biological systems and bioinformatics tools. And so I looked for bioinformatics training opportunities on my campus and discovered that at the time, there was no recurring program of bioinformatics support and training. This was a clear need that I thought I could help to address in my new position. That's when I learned about the NNLM Training Office's Bioinformatics course for librarians. The course then consisted of 2 parts, an online biology and bioinformatics essentials course and a week-long in-person intensive workshop, A Librarian's Guide to NCBI. Since then, the course has been revamped to be entirely online and self-paced and retitled as Bioinformatics and Biology Essentials for Librarians. The course transformed the way I approached my new roles and resulted in the addition of bioinformatics to my job title. So my next recommendation is to take advantage of professional development opportunities. The Bioinformatics for Librarians course provided me with a grounding in molecular biology concepts and hands-on experience with NCBI's bioinformatics resources. Inspired by the course structure and content, I decided to address the training gap I discovered at Berkeley. I created my own workshop and LibGuide introducing NCBI resources such as gene, protein, nucleotide, and BLAST. I based both the workshop and the guide on specific examples that had been presented in the bioinformatics course. I published the guide and began offering the workshop in fall 2015. This leads to my third recommendation, which is to make use of existing resources and expertise. You don't have to invent training materials or content from scratch. The NLM YouTube channel has many excellent videos you can link to or embed and offers many examples you can use and adapt. I also realized, however, that my knowledge was necessarily limited, and so I looked for opportunities to hold workshops with invited expert presenters. Berkeley hosted 2 rounds of the NCBI Discovery Workshops. These were 2-day intensives where NCBI staff would lead an interactive exploration of different use cases involving NCBI tools, as well as hold consultations with researchers about their active projects. We also have an ongoing series where I invite representatives from different bioinformatics resources to hold training workshops on campus or via Zoom. The resources we featured have included Ingenuity Pathway Analysis, Proteome, Biopsych, which Neetu mentioned, and Reactome. And this spring, I'm hoping to pilot workshops in which Berkeley graduate students present to each other on bioinformatics resources that they use in their research workflows, a model of peer-to-peer instruction that Rolando and Sophia have developed very successfully at Yale. I also conceive of bioinformatics instruction broadly. For example, when the NIH data management and sharing policy was announced, I helped form a group to proactively educate faculty and researchers about the expectations outlined in the policy. The group included librarians from the Research Data Management Program, Library Data Services, and Public Health to create a 45-minute workshop on writing a data management and sharing plan for grant submissions and fulfilling the policy requirements. We first delivered the workshop in spring 2022 and repeated it monthly throughout the fall semester, reaching 50 NIH-funded PIs and research managers. Our workshops and messaging, along with NIH's own notices and webinars, ensured that our researchers were well prepared for the implementation of the policy in January 2023. When planning workshops, scheduling is always a difficulty. However, when the pandemic struck, we discovered that hosting workshops on Zoom and making recordings available afterwards allowed researchers to view them at their own convenience or point of need and greatly increased the viewership. Which leads to my next recommendation, to provide online and on-demand support. I'd mentioned that when I developed my NCBI Resources workshop, I created an accompanying LibGuide. Although I stopped giving the workshop when the pandemic struck, a remarkable thing happened to the online guide. After the pandemic closures in March 2020 until today, it's been viewed nearly 365,000 times, with more than 100,000 of those views occurring in the past 12 months. The most popular page by far is the one on BLAST. So again, making materials freely available online, as Amy also described, can greatly increase their usefulness and impact. Word of the NCBI Resources Workshop and Guide reached teaching faculty, and I was approached by an instructor to do an expanded version of the workshop for his graduate course in genomics and computational biology, which I did every spring semester between 2016 and 2022. So another recommendation is to look for instructional opportunities in the curriculum. In this case, of course, the instructor found me. Course-integrated instruction has the advantage of providing an immediate and meaningful context for students and can be tailored for their specific course content and assignments. In spring 2024, this same instructor was part of a team teaching an undergraduate data science for biology course, and he asked me to do a version of the workshop with his new class. The challenge was that many of the students were computer science rather than biology majors. I redesigned the workshop as a 2-hour bioinformatics lab. The students worked in groups on questions highlighting specific NCBI resources and then reported back to the class on their answers. If you're planning to attend session 7 of this series on customizing bioinformatics support for diverse communities, I'll be talking about this class in more detail. Another course where the instructor reached out to me is in Berkeley's Masters in Information and Data Science online program. The course is called Modern Data Science Applications and features a 1-week module on computational biology. I'm invited each semester to give a 45-minute presentation to these data science graduate students. The presentation covers bioinformatics and biotech information and data sources, research and analysis tools, and the application of machine learning and AI to biological problems. It's another example of an opportunity for bioinformatics instruction outside of the traditional biology curriculum. Another cross-disciplinary connection I was able to make was with the curriculum designer and program coordinator for responsible conduct of research, or RCR, instruction at Berkeley. Together with librarian colleagues from Berkeley's Research Data Management Program, Library Data Services, as well as the Physical and Social Sciences, we created a team to provide the campus's mandated data management and sharing instruction. We trained 3 main groups: first-year graduate students in MCB, chemical biology, and bioengineering. The same cohort 4 years later, when they're required to take an RCR refresher course, and graduate students and postdocs in public health, social research, and other disciplines, who take the course through the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. We've taught these courses multiple times per semester since fall 2018 to over 850 graduate students and postdocs. We hope that we're helping to create a generation of early career researchers who will follow best data management and sharing practices throughout their careers and instill these values in their future lab members. A bonus of this instruction is that it has led to one-on-one research consultations as well. A new program director for RCR training has just been appointed. We've been asked to continue providing our data management and sharing module and will be involved in the redesign and updating of the curriculum in future semesters. The success of all of these long-term instructional initiatives leads to my next recommendation, which is to build ongoing collaborative partnerships. Ongoing partnerships with faculty, staff, and library colleagues have been crucially important to my ability to build and sustain bioinformatics services. As the only bioinformatics librarian at Berkeley, and with other subject, selection, outreach, and instruction responsibilities, I could never do it without the mutual help and support these partnerships provide. Collaborations enable you to incorporate multiple perspectives and amplify a project's scope and impact. When they are ongoing, they enable you to revise and improve approaches, materials, and outcomes over multiple iterations and build success over time. My collaborative projects are always much better than anything I could come up with on my own. My last recommendation is among the most difficult. Stay informed about changes in bioinformatics tools, practices, and policies. Bioinformatics is a rapidly changing field. As Neetu mentioned, just in the last decade or so, we've seen the development of CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing, single-cell RNA-seq, and accurate long-read sequencing technologies. Automated laboratories performing bioinformatics experiments at scale have already been built at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, which is managed and supported by UC Berkeley, and at Carnegie Mellon. The protein structure prediction problem has been addressed by the application of AI and machine learning in the development of the program AlphaFold 2, work that received half of this year's Nobel Prize in Chemistry. The other half of the prize was given for novel protein design, which, together with AlphaFold, promises the creation of proteins targeted for specific biological tasks and therapies. As these developments suggest, we're just the beginning of the era of precision and personalized medicine. New tools, platforms, and pipelines are constantly being built. New features and functionality are added to existing ones, and new funder, journal, and community policies are being adopted. It's difficult to stay informed about the latest developments. I know this is one of the many places where I struggle. But I find NIH and the National Library of Medicine to be very helpful resources in this never-ending task through programs such as NCBI Office Hours, the NCBI Insights blog, and the NLM webinar series and classes. Here are links to some of the things I've mentioned today, including the NCBI Bioinformatics Resources LibGuide and information on some of the course-integrated and campus-wide bioinformatics and data-related instruction I've done. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to any questions you might have.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Elliott. What helpful and immediately practical recommendations you've provided. It's great stuff. And I love to hear about collaborative and cross-disciplinary projects from libraries. I've always believed that bringing people together across disciplines is one of the most important roles for librarians. So thank you so much for your thoughts. So it's time for questions.
Did I read the first question, Kate?
Sure, thanks.
Question from Ibu Chen for Amy. What are the main challenges to recruit replacement bioinformatics specialists? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I think a couple challenges. One I think is sort of knowing where to look. Or we have some flexibility on if we want to make it, a library position and try to get someone with a library degree, or look more solely for someone with the biology background. And it's actually been really helpful to hear what Neetu and Elliott do, and because that's kind of the second part is, what exactly should the job descriptions be? When JP started, it was again that kind of just first creating the position and sort of figuring out what the responsibilities are as it goes along. So I think just kind of really defining the role and sort of knowing where to find that skill set has been a challenge.
We have one question from Molly to any or all. Do you have recommendation on how to start with genomic literacy for freshmen? How do you gauge the level of knowledge with the freshman audience to start with explaining the central dogma? Medline Plus, genetics, what resonates with learners? Maybe we can start with Neetu and then Elliott and then A.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question because till about a year back, I struggled with that question. And then I got connected with the undergrad research, Center for Undergrad Research Fellowship and Scholarship on campus. And I talked to them. And that's when I first presented a workshop on the NCBI databases. However, I think what I did not realize that doing a workshop should be very timely, in the sense it should be just before students are embarking on their summer research, or between their freshman and sophomore year, because that's when they're trying to explore what labs to go for research and understanding. And the other thing that I've realized recently is connecting with professors who do lower level classes in biology with focus on molecular biology or genetics. I think that is what is my plan of action for the next semester. And that is what I'm going to be doing, connecting with professors who offer those classes and requesting them, or, talking to them how we can do a curriculum development to encourage students to get interested in genomics, science of genomics. So that's where I am coming from right now.
I'll just second, I think, what Neetu has just said, which is that I found it to be extremely helpful to make connections with faculty who are teaching kind of undergraduate courses that relate to molecular and cell biology. And in particular, I kind of had an experience like this in teaching the data science for biology class, where the students came from many different backgrounds, and a lot of them, probably a majority, were computer science majors and may not have had much, if any, biology before they took the class. I did start with, the central dogma and did a kind of a brief introduction to that. But when you are doing this within the context of a course, very often you can find out from the professor sort of how much of that background the students have already received as part of the course. And so that can help guide sort of how you approach it. And this course it was very fortunate because it wasn't in a kind of lecture format, but it had been set up deliberately as a kind of data science lab. And so it was very much hands-on and working with the resources. And so I was able to set up, kind of a series of questions to enable the students to work on. And I think having that hands-on experience is very important to give them a sense of what the resources can be used for. Perhaps Amy has something more to add.
So I am not really a great person to answer this question because I don't work with freshmen at all. We have very few, we only have like a couple very small undergraduate programs at my university, and it's almost all graduate and professional people. So I'm a lot more likely to work with people who have a lot more subject knowledge than I do, but maybe they haven't gotten some of the computing experience, or they need help finding some of the resources that are out there. So I will say Neetu and Elliott had some great ideas, and you should listen to what they have to say about that.
Yeah, I was going to add that here at Yale, we also have, we don't serve freshmen, so we also serve mostly graduate students. Postdocs are our biggest audience, and even faculty and, young faculty, actually kind of, it's also a big, they come to us because they hadn't, maybe they didn't have need to contact these technologies while preparing themselves to have their own lab, and now they are like, oh, in a world that if you don't do it, you don't get a grant, basically. So for us, it helps to have, like Neetu, a background in biology, in lab research, so we kind of know a little bit what it is to be on the other side and how to talk to them and how to reach them. But of course, they already have a level of understanding of their subject matter that helps us guide our instruction, recognize in our audience maybe the knowledge that we would be like, maybe you want to present a peer-to-peer teaching session and share a more niche, what Elliott and Neetu were referring to as the problem of the ever-evolving technology, knowledge, new ways of analyze, new tech, new, just new things, right, to deal with. And so maybe there is no big audience that justifies us go deep, learn that to teach, right? But we can detect on someone else from the audience that knowledge, that experience, and invite them to share that with their peers. Yeah, so is there any more questions? Rolando, did you see any other question?
If not, I think I have a quick question, I hope,
Yeah.
for everybody, which is, have you seen a gap where for early career researchers, graduate students and faculty perhaps, where they have, they didn't use these technologies during an earlier period of their career, and then they're assumed to know how to use them once they reach a certain level. And that's a gap I think that we can all try to fill. What have your experiences been?
Yes, Neetu and Amy, do you recognize that?
I do. I think like there was a program I mentioned on kind of microbiome analysis where, it does seem like they were kind of, it wasn't sort of part of their normal research, but they're kind of expected to like maybe have this sort of component. So yeah, I think for sure. And especially again with some of like the computing abilities and programs, we're able to help with that a little more.
Yeah, in my experience, I have felt this, especially senior graduate students who have not necessarily worked on labs where they do bioinformatics and all, but they're curious because they want their career to go into that side, or their next postdoc or something. So I have students who have come to me for career advice, what they can and should do. And that's when I do offer one-on-one sessions about, basic genomic resources and all that, and especially genome browser and how we just like the workshops that NLM does, I have provided that kind of instruction to them. So that's how I have done some career advising to students who are interested in getting into labs where they can use bioinformatic resources.
Mike Jundi says to Elliott, yes, limited research methods or skills from residents and certainly from long-term health providers. So that's a gap that we are always trying also to fill in. And it's great because, you have these people that already have a career and a knowledge in their field, and they're like very eager to learn. So they are very good students, and participants. I had a question. Oh my God. Going back to limited, research, limited resources, you all have explained, how you choose your, right, where to focus. And I think that what you explain is that you also turn to your community, right? And you evaluate what is needed. You study the curriculums, or you make a survey, and you kind of cater that way your service. But I'm curious to know, like, so for each one of you, what was the tool that you started with? Like where was your starting point? Because I don't know if it was clear to me, at least, if there is a pattern here. That's what I'm trying to get to. Neetu, where did you start with your path to develop your program?
So because I did not come with the library background, so it was something new. So for me, it was transitioning from research into libraries. So for me, it was a completely uncharted territory coming into Penn libraries. So I had to actually take a lot of cues from Manuel. So he actually guided me through, and I started with doing small workshops,
About
especially
what, if I may?
biopsych. I started with biopsych. So yeah, and before that, I did the workshop that is offered by the NLM, the databases, bioinformatics resources workshop. So I did initially the first semester I was here, I did that. And then I went ahead and started doing workshops and then developing the other workshops and working with professors, faculty on campus, and slowly started taking consultations. Yeah. Mhm. And in fact, this semester has been busy because I've done 2 classes, like I mentioned in my presentation.
Mhm.
So I think this is where I'm getting idea of developing and meeting with more professors, offering undergrad classes, and helping them develop curriculum to include genomic literacy.
And I just want to say that I just looked at the watch. I love to talk, so that's why I never realized the time. So I realized that we are at time, past time. But if you want to everyone joining us, if you want to listen the answers from Elliott and Amy, I'm really curious, and I appreciate everyone joining today. I just want to say before we start to lose people.
I'll just answer very quickly. And for me, it started with the Bioinformatics and Biology Essentials for Librarians course, and developing a workshop out of that, and everything kind of came from that beginning.
Yeah, so another pattern, right? The NIH biology and bioinformatics and biology essentials for librarians. Yeah. And Amy?
So the bioinformatics programming at my library predated me by several years, but started with needs assessment kind of research. And I know that we learned a lot from other libraries. I think Pittsburgh, who I know we've heard from in the series, we looked at a lot, and the NIH library and all of that support. And then like me personally, I mean, my background, I didn't really mention, but my background is in classical studies and then library school. So I'm, really just kind of filling a bioinformatics role right now, although I'm excited to keep learning more about it and then helping kind of direct our overall programming in that area going forward.
And that is super inspirational, because for anyone listening to us, right? Take Amy as an example. You don't really need to be a biologist to, to be able, you just have to have that curiosity and, that love. So thank you so much to everyone here in this panel and that join us. Kate, do you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Neetu, and thank you, Elliott, for your great presentations today. So everyone, I know we're over time. Please see chat for an evaluation form and for a certificate of participation. Thanks to Sophia and to Rolando and to Molly for this series. And we will see you all next week, I hope, next Friday, same time, same channel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.